Welcome to Series 1 of Mr. D Code from Probability to Information, Episode 5 of 6, How Complexity Emerges. Before we begin today's episode, let us pause and gently reconnect the path we have been following. In Episode 1, we did not start with things. We did not start with particles, space, or time. We started with a simpler question. Can existence happen at all? We saw that before anything exists, there is probability, not as a number, but as possibility itself. Existence becomes possible only when probability patterns interfere strongly enough to stabilize. In Episode 2, we asked why everything does not exist equally, why some patterns repeat while others disappear. We discovered that probability does not remain random. It forms patterns, and when patterns reinforce themselves through repetition, they become stable. That stability is what we call a law. In Episode 3, we explored how patterns do not remain isolated. Stable patterns interact, they evolve, they influence one another. And through this interaction, dimensions emerge, not as places, but as rule sets that constrain how probability can behave. In Episode 4, we explored why the universe itself is stable, why existence does not collapse back into chaos. We saw that stability is not imposed. It emerges naturally when multiple laws and dimensions converge in a compatible way, allowing ordering, including the emergence of time as a dimension. Now, in Episode 5, we arrive at a deeper and more subtle question. Once stability exists, once patterns persist, why does complexity appear at all? Why doesn't the universe remain simple forever? This episode is about that transition, not from non-existence to existence, which we have already crossed, but from simple stability to layered structure, from repeating patterns to integrated systems, from structure to information. Complexity does not appear all at once. It grows slowly by layering stability. Once a stable pattern exists, it does not disappear after a single moment. It becomes reusable. Probability does not need to rediscover it again and again. It builds on it. Simple stable patterns begin to combine into larger stable patterns, but not every combination works. Many combinations collapse. Only the combinations that preserve stability continue to exist. This is not choice. This is not intention. This is selection by compatibility. As complexity grows, something subtle begins to happen. Patterns do not just persist on their own anymore. They begin to relate to one another, not symbolically and not meaningfully, but structurally. The state of one pattern starts to influence the probability of another pattern's state. At first, this influence is simple. Later, it becomes layered. Patterns begin to shape each other's behavior. At this point, we need to be very precise. What is emerging here is not awareness. Nothing is observing anything. Nothing is experiencing anything. What is emerging is a new dimensional constraint, a dimension that allows information from multiple patterns to be held together as a single coherent structure. This is what we call consciousness as a dimension. In this framework, consciousness is not a mind. It is not experience. It is not awareness. Consciousness is a dimension that emerges when multiple probability patterns and constraint dimensions converge in a way that allows stable existence. It does not come before existence, and it does not create existence. It arises exactly at the threshold where existence becomes possible. This dimension governs how converging laws and probability dimensions integrate with one another. It allows them to stabilize into a coherent, persistent configuration. Existence does not occur inside consciousness, and consciousness does not drive existence forward. Instead, consciousness emerges as the dimensional condition under which existence can remain stable rather than collapse back into fluctuation. Where this convergence does not occur, consciousness does not exist, and neither does stable existence. Just as time is a dimension that allows ordering, consciousness is a dimension that allows integration. It governs how information can be combined, correlated, and stabilized across patterns. This does not mean thinking. It does not mean feeling. It does not mean knowing. It simply means that information can now exist in an integrated form. Consciousness here is structural, not experiential. It is a medium, a rule set, a constraint layer. Nothing is aware yet. Awareness comes later and only inside certain universes. Consciousness is not experience. It is what makes experience possible. With this new dimension in place, complexity can continue to grow. And when complexity grows further, information truly begins to appear.